AARP Virginia YouTube channel. Please click Got It when it appears on your screen. If you're not familiar, AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people to choose how they live as they age. AARP works to strengthen communities and advocates for what matters most, with a focus on health security, financial resilience, and social connection. Today's program focuses on Social Security and financial security. If you haven't already, please put your first name and what city you are zooming in from in the Q&A window. Now, before we begin, AARP wants to make sure you have the most current updates on Social Security. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest and AARP's Social Security Program Manager, Jamie Lytle. Jamie Lytle is a dedicated professional with a background in psychology and social services, a graduate of Copeland State University and holder of a master's in industrial organizational psychology. He has served as a technical expert at the Social Security Administration and currently works as a program manager at AARP, leading initiatives to strengthen Social Security. He's also pursuing a Master of Arts in Nonprofit Management at Johns Hopkins University, reflecting his commitment to lifelong learning and community impact. Based in Baltimore, Jamie is passionate about improving lives through service and advocacy. Remember, please put all questions for Jamie in the Q&A window. Welcome, Jamie.
Happy to be here. I cut out for a moment, but I'm happy to be here.
Okay.
Should I get started? Am I ready to share or?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Hello, everyone. Give me a moment as I share my screen. Awesome. And hello again, Jamie Lyell here. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for this special virtual event on connection between civic engagement and Social Security. And I'm honored to welcome you on behalf of AARP Virginia. And I'll make sure we reflect on the legacy, evolution, and the future of one of the most impactful achievements in American history. This year, AARP has been proudly celebrating Social Security's legacy while also fighting to protect and strengthen it for older Americans today and for our kids and grandkids tomorrow. If it is your first time joining me today, just a little bit about myself. I do love educating about Social Security at AARP because it gives me the chance to empower our members with the knowledge they need to navigate their benefits. Ensuring fairness and understanding in Social Security is crucial, and being part of AARP allows me to make a positive impact on the lives of those who have contributed so much to our society. I do make some sport references. My sport reference for this presentation is that Social Security is the ultimate baton pass, each generation handing off security and dignity to the next. So I want to begin by going back to the 1930s. The Great Depression had left millions of older Americans in poverty. In response, President Franklin Roosevelt signed the Social Security Act into law on August 14th, 1935. It was a groundbreaking moment, creating a promise of income security for retirees. This was the beginning of a new age of retirement that will become a cornerstone of American life. And in the fabric of society, few institutions have woven themselves as deeply into American life, such as Social Security. So over the decades, Social Security has evolved to meet the changing needs of Americans. In 1939, benefits were extended to dependents and survivors. In 1950, the first cost of living adjustment was introduced, an increase of 77%. And by 1960, disability benefits were expanded, and in 1961, early retirement at the age of 62 became an option, one of the most popular options out there, I would say. Now, the 1972 amendments made COLA or cost of living adjustments automatic, ensuring benefits kept pace with inflation. Going to 1983, facing a funding crisis, President Reagan signed reforms that included raising the retirement age and taxing benefits for higher income recipients. And then in 1993, President Clinton increased the taxable portion of benefits for those with higher incomes. These changes reflect how Social Security has adapted to economic realities while maintaining its core mission. As we look to the future, we must acknowledge the challenges. The 2025 trustee report estimated that full benefits can be paid until 2034. After that, payroll taxes would only cover about 80% of scheduled benefits. Now, this doesn't mean Social Security will disappear, but it does mean we need solutions. And AARP is actively engaging in shaping these solutions, whether it's strengthening the payroll tax base, adjusting benefit formulas, or ensuring fairness. We're committed to protecting Social Security for current and future generations. Now, AARP's role in advocacy. Now, AARP's commitment to Social Security began with our founder, Dr. Ethel Percy Andrews, who believed in dignity, independence, and purpose for older Americans. Since then, AARP has been a powerful voice in protecting Social Security from cuts, opposing privatization, and advocating for fair COLAs or cost of living adjustments. We mobilized millions of members, educated the public, and worked with lawmakers to ensure Social Security remains strong, whether it's defending against harmful proposals or pushing for long-term solvency. AARP continues to be a champion for older Americans. One thing that I would like to highlight is SSA's phone service changes. The SSA did plan to end the ability to apply for benefits by phone, requiring in-person or online identity verification instead. But AARP strongly opposed the change, citing disproportionate impact on older adults, especially those in rural areas or with limited internet access. So we achieved a reversal victory. So SSA reversed course after public pressure, and phone applications remain available for all benefit types. AARP emphasized that removing phone access will create barriers for people with disabilities, limited mobility, or again, tech changes. And AARP continues to monitor SSA's service delivery to ensure accessibility and equity for all older Americans. Today, Social Security is the largest source of income for most retirees. According to the AARP's 2025 survey, about 80% of households rely on Social Security as a source of retirement income, and roughly 1 in 4 households depend on it for 90% or more of their income. Ultimately, Social Security provides a guaranteed inflation-adjusted benefit that brings peace of mind to millions of Americans. Social Security enjoys broad support across all age groups, with 90% of respondents saying Social Security is important to their retirement security, and not just for older adults, but for all generations. And again, I just want to highlight that as we look towards the future, we must acknowledge those challenges the 2025 trustee report estimated for until 2034. Now, I want to go over the principles, AARP's principles for protecting Social Security. I want to highlight that AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, and we have developed these guiding principles in our fight to protect Social Security in alignment with our mission. Ultimately, AARP believes that finance for Social Security for the long term. Social Security should continue to provide a stable foundation for retirement income and protect those most in need. Any proposal should make improvements to address the economic and demographic changes over the last 90 years so that Social Security can meet the needs of future beneficiaries and their families. And any proposal should continue to reward work and ensure that workers' payments are clearly defined and cannot be outlived and are protected against inflation. And any changes to Social Security should protect current beneficiaries and those near retirements and be made gradually and fairly. With that, I want to go over the possible solutions to protect Social Security now that we've seen how important Social Security is to so many Americans. I'm going to review 5 proposed solutions that Congress could use to protect Social Security, and I'm going to go by them one by one, and we'll discuss the potential impact each solution could have on the funding gap based on information from Social Security. Now, as we consider these possible solutions, I want everyone to keep in mind that there is likely not one solution that will fully fund Social Security, and it's more likely that Congress will arrive at a combination of all or some of these solutions. And ultimately, AARP is calling for Congress to ensure that all legislation to adjust Social Security go through its regular legislative process and not be done as part of any debt reduction effort. It is important that the process of looking at solvency options is transparent as possible to the public. So let's get started by looking at the possible solutions. The first solution is eliminating or raising the wage cap. Now, the wage cap, what this means is in 2025, Social Security taxes are only paid on the first $176,100 of wage earnings. This threshold is called the taxable maximum or tax max. Any earnings above the taxable maximum is not subject to Social Security payroll tax. What that means is that people who make $1 million stop paying into Social Security at the end of February every year. Various proposals would help close the shortfall by either removing this cap altogether or setting it higher to capture the large amount of wage growth above the cap. Most of these proposals would increase payments to reflect those higher earners' contributions, but at a lower rate of return. And what's the potential impact option on the funding gap? It might fill anywhere, as you see on the screen, 30 to 70% of the gap. And I want to look at some pros and cons. One pro for this one: removing or increasing the cap would significantly increase the revenue for Social Security, potentially closing a large portion of the funding gap, and it could extend the solvency of Social Security for several decades at least. But there are 2 cons. First con is it's a partial solution. So eliminating or increasing the cap alone will not fully solve Social Security's long-term solvency issues. And in addition, the second con, without corresponding changes to payments, these increased contributions at the high end will result in a very large Social Security check for higher income earners. Solution 2 is a proposal to increase FICA or FICA tax over time, raising both the employer and employee shares of the payroll tax. So currently, employees and employers each pay 6.2% payroll tax on that first $176,100 of annual wages, which is part of the FICA tax that you see on your paycheck. All variants of this proposal will phase in this to increase over time and increase both the employer and employee share of that payroll tax. Now look at the potential impact of this option on the funding gap. Increasing payroll taxes 1 to 2% might fill anywhere between 25 and 50% of the gap. So next is pros and cons. 2 pros of this: raising payroll tax rate would significantly increase the funds available for Social Security, helping to close the funding gap. Since payroll taxes are paid by both 183 million current employees and their employers, a relatively small increase in payroll tax for both employees and their employers would have a significant positive impact on Social Security's finances. But there are 3 cons to this. First con is taxes have an impact on the economy. Higher payroll taxes could reduce the disposable income for workers and increase labor costs for employers, potentially impacting economic growth and employment. It also is a partial solution. While raising payroll taxes would help, it might not be sufficient on its own to fully address long-term solvency issues, necessitating additional measures. And the final con of this one will be there could be a significant bipartisan political opposition to increasing payroll taxes on all workers and their employers, even if only on high earners. Solution 3 of 5. The third possible solution is raising the full retirement age. Current retirement age is 67 years old for anyone born in or after 1960. This solution will raise it anywhere between 68 to 70 years old. As you think about this one, consider that people are living longer than they did back in 1935 when Social Security was created. Um, this change could happen over time to protect those currently in retirement, much like it did last time Congress raised the full retirement age, as we discussed in 1983. The early claiming age of 62 would still need to be preserved because it is important for those who do horrendous work or have health or caregiving challenges. However, for every year the full retirement ages increase, payments for those who claim at 62 will be cut by roughly 6%. Additionally, because of the long-term phase-in time, savings to the program will likely take effect for several decades. And as you see here, this option might fill the funding gap anywhere between 5 to 30%, depending on what the full retirement age is raised to. And now our pros and cons, of course, to this solution. Two pros. First pro is gradually increasing the full retirement age will significantly extend the solvency of the Social Security Trust Fund by reducing the number of years of payments are paid out and increasing the reduction in payments for early retirement. Another pro is that as some people live longer, raising the full retirement age aligns with increased life expectancy, ensuring the system remains sustainable. And the cons of this is raising the full retirement age effectively reduces payments for all new retirees because they would have to wait longer to receive payments or accept reduced payments if they retire earlier. And while life expectancy has increased overall in recent decades, not everyone is living longer, especially those with lower incomes. Moreover, not everyone can work longer, including those in physically demanding jobs. And then solution 4 we'll go over is reducing payments for people with higher incomes. Social Security is set up so that even though people with lower wages receive lower Social Security payments overall, they get a larger proportion of their contributions back in retirement than those with higher incomes. Some proposals would change the payment formula to return even less money proportionately to those who earn more during their lifetimes. Another approach would be some form of means testing, which would base the higher earners person's payment on their income and assets at retirement, as opposed to what they paid into the system during their career. And as you see, what's the potential impact of reducing payments for higher earners? It will fill anywhere between 15 to 30% of the funding gap. And I'll move on to the pros and cons of this one. Two pros. First, by reducing payments for those who are less dependent on Social Security, significant savings can be achieved without impacting quality of life. Now, this approach makes the system more progressive, ensuring that those who need payments the most receive them. But there's one con to this one, and that's reducing or especially eliminating payments for high-income earners might be seen as unfair by some, potentially undermining Social Security's popularity as earned payment and potentially leading to a public resistance. And my final solution, solution 5, use other funding sources. So as we discussed earlier, Social Security is self-funded through payroll taxes. No other funds, including the general fund, are used to pay Social Security payments. This solution proposes using other funding sources to close the future funding gap. And there are several other funding sources to consider, which include using money from the general fund for Social Security, taxing other forms of income like investments, to include who do not earn income through wages, or 3, creating a private market investment fund to help fund Social Security Trust Fund. Lawmakers could borrow initial deposits, which could be paid later as the new investment fund grows over time. It is important to note that this option is not so much a reform option as it is a backstop, meaning it's an option that can be used if other plans fail. It is hard to estimate how much it could fill the funding gap, as you see here with the question mark. It is a little easier to talk about pros and cons of this solution. One pro, for this solution is that the use of general funds will provide a quick source of funding for Social Security without Congress having to potentially make a political difficult choice of raising taxes or cutting payments. But two cons of this one, with the first one being diverting money from the general fund would increase the federal deficit or reduce funding for other programs or possibly both. And the final con would be this approach might face significant political opposition because it involves substantially adding to already high debts and deficits or reallocating existing resources from other priorities. Now, we earned Social Security, so let's defend it. Celebrate 90 years of resilience. You can pledge the fight for Social Security. Social Security has been there for multiple generations, and AARP fights every day so that it stays strong for you and generations to come. So if you're ready to speak up for Social Security, you can add your name and pledge to be part of this fight by scanning this QR code. And for engagement and advocacy, you can also check out the link if you are usually uneasy with QR codes, I understand. So we make it easy for you to get involved. You can make your voice heard by visiting aarp.org/we earned it. Because we earn these benefits and together we can ensure they remain strong for generations to come. And resources for learning more if you want to learn more about Social Security. If you're looking for trusted information about Social Security, AARP has you covered. You can visit aarp.org/social security for articles, videos, and updates. You can also get personalized answers at answers.aarp.org. You can estimate your future benefits with our Social Security calculator. And again, you can learn how to take action at aarp.org/advocacy. And I want to thank everyone for listening to me speak, and I will take questions now. If there's any questions in the Q&A, and it doesn't have to be on the history of Social Security, it can be any other questions you might have about Social Security.
Okay, let me just check and make sure and see if there's any questions in the Q&A for Jamie.
Yes.
Let's see. Looks like there's one here. AARP needs to rethink some of the companies let's see what it says. AARP needs to rethink some of the companies they're backed, like United Healthcare and others. I hope I said that correctly, Michael.
And Michael, you make a valid point. Thank you for sharing that. But unfortunately, that is not the topic of today's discussion. Moving on to the next question.
Okay. Um, what is AARP doing to protect Social Security?
So as I stated earlier in the presentation, we are reaching out, we are speaking to your elected officials. We are speaking with the SSA commissioner and we're making sure they stay transparent and make a decision on keeping a Social Security solvent well before 2034. We're in the communities, and we'll talk more about some of the things that we've even done in the Virginia state as well after the questions.
Okay, thank you. Here's another question for you, Jamie. Is Social Security under threat?
I wouldn't say that Social Security is under threat. I would say that Social Security does face some funding challenges in the future, the near future, about 9 years from now, given 2034, if Congress doesn't act or take one of those or a combination of those solutions that I went over. Those are some of the options available to Congress. Once those decisions are made, Social Security should be able to remain strong for you and the future generations.
Okay. Let's go a little bit more. We have time for a little bit more questions.
Awesome.
Um, do you think members of Congress will vote to protect Social Security, Jamie?
Well, I can't predict the future, but what I do believe is that the past is the best prediction for the future. And in the past, Congress have made actions well ahead of solvency took place. So if history repeats itself, then yes, Congress should act before 2034.
Okay. Now, this is a very good question. I have this for myself as well. Can I work while getting Social Security?
That is a great question. I get it quite often. You can work and receive Social Security, but if you do claim Social Security before your full retirement age, and I'll highlight again that if you were born 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. If you claim Social Security before your full retirement age and continue to work, you will be subject to possible reductions based off of how much you make, and also claiming before your full retirement age will be a permanent reduction for life. So keep that in mind. But you can work, and once you reach your full retirement age, you can work as much as you would like with no reductions.
Okay. Now, I think we have time for one more. Uh,
Okay.
Jamie, what's the difference between going to the Social Security office and doing it online?
Okay. Well, online is convenient if you have the Wi-Fi and the bandwidth within your home or local library. You can do a lot online. You can even uh, look up now. You can see your Social Security number if you don't have your card and you just need that number for something. So there's a lot of things you can do. You can track things and get estimates of your Social Security benefits. Um, when you want to go in an office, you want to go in an office because you might have something that's very situational, maybe complex, and you need those real answers right then and there. You would want to go in the office for that. Um, Let me know if there's any other questions in the Q&A box, Catherine, specifically.
That looks like that's all the questions. Let me look in the chat. That's all we have in there. Mhm.
None in the Q&A by chance section
Oh,
specific.
let me wait, one more.
Just
Oh,
want to make sure I get to
yep,
everyone's.
you're right. Let me double check because we still have time.
Yes.
Um, let's do this one. Can you go into more detail about what actually happens to monthly benefits the day the trust fund runs out?
Awesome. Yeah, I can speak on that again. So if Social Security or and I wouldn't say the trust fund will run out, but the reserves will
Mhm.
be used up in a sense. So after once 2034 comes around, if Congress hasn't taken any actions, Social Security will be able to pay only 80% of earned benefits. So you say you're receiving 1,000 and would only be able to pay about 800 compared to the 1,000 that you're expecting it to pay, which is a big difference for those depending on their Social Security check every month. So that's basically what would happen. There's not as many workers as there are those receiving Social Security, which makes this happen. Given back in 1953, I'm not a historian, but 1953, there was about 16 workers per Social Security recipient. And in coming to 2034, there'll only be about 2.3 workers per Social Security recipient. So the ratio has changed a lot. So hope that answers your question.
Okay. Now I'm still looking. There are some other questions that have come in. If we act this year, what's the smallest change that could keep the program solvent?
The smallest change. I wouldn't say any option that I went over solutions would be small. Um, but based off of history of Social Security, gradually raising the retirement age and taxing higher earners was one solution that was used back in the late 90s or early 90s. So that could be a repeating solution again, since it showed that it worked well in the past. And if it worked in the past, it's possibly possible to work in the future.
Okay. There are some others that have come in.
Okay.
Uh, how can AARP help ensure all candidates, regardless of party, are pressed to share their specific plans for Social Security?
Um, by advocating, by getting our members, by showing up, reaching out to their congressman. Um, one voice might not seem like a lot, but when it's a million plus voices speaking, it really makes a difference and echo through those hallways in DC. So getting involved in our government affairs team here at AARP is on the ground every day, boots on the ground, if you will, and fighting for Social Security. Again, because we earned it.
Mhm. Agree. Um, Now, I don't know whether this is a question or a statement. I'm going to read it. It says they need to stop investing in U.S. Treasury bonds.
Valid point, but not a question. We'll move on.
Okay. And another, looks like here's another. Will we receive the replay?
So this video will be posted on the AARP Virginia YouTube channel for you to be able to watch it again at a later time.
Okay. That's what that meant. All right. I'm looking. Let's see. I don't see any more at this point.
Okay.
One just came in. Does AARP provide other ways members can financially support themselves outside of Social Security?
Oh, there it is.
We do have tools and resources on our website for financial education and options available for you to make sure you're ultimately retiring how you want to retire. I would say definitely go on aarp.org. We have a lot of subsections there depending on what your specific need is. And you should be able to find a lot of information around retirement and ways to plan and strategies to maximize your time after work in great retirement, that is.
Okay, let me check and see if there's any others. I don't see any at this point.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for listening. I guess it's now time for the next section or segment of the event.
Okay, thank you so much, Jamie. We really do appreciate that.
You're
I think
welcome.
that was really good information. And thanks everyone who put questions in the Q&A box. Again, now we have someone else. We are pleased to be joined today by Scott Musser, AARP Senior Strategic Campaign Advisor. Sorry about that. We'll start with a brief video and then Scott will share additional insights. Scott, the floor is yours.
Today, Social Security is 90 years old. The traditional anniversary gift for 90 years is granite, which is fitting because Social Security is truly the bedrock of retirement security in America. After a lifetime of work, Social Security helps millions of Americans pay their bills and put food on the table. 90 years ago, that was the promise our country made to hardworking Americans. Now, we're calling on our leaders to commit to protecting Social Security for the next 90 years. At AARP, this cause is at the heart of our mission. Over the decades, we've fought cuts to cost of living adjustments, opposed using Social Security to address budget deficits, and earlier this year, we pushed back on changes that would make it harder for people to get help with their Social Security over the phone. But Americans' confidence in Social Security has declined. This is a wake-up call for lawmakers. We need leaders to ensure that Social Security is strong for all of us today and for our kids and grandkids tomorrow. After all, it's your money. You earned it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for the introduction, Catherine, and welcome to everybody. Obviously, heard a great video from our Executive Vice President, Nancy Lamont, just talking about some of the stuff around Social Security's 90th. And thanks to Jamie for really laying out a lot of the details on Social Security's history and sort of where we're at today. But yeah, we just got done doing a bunch of different events. We actually had over 600 events across all 50 states, plus DC, Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico in August and leading up to the August 90th anniversary for Social Security. Great events to really sort of highlight how important the program is, the history of it, and then, like we've heard, some of the challenges with it going forward. So you see some great photos from the Virginia team of some of the stuff that they did as part of the 90th anniversary events. But we had over almost 80,000 people during that time to join us in a telethon hall, very similar to a format like this. Got to listen around Social Security, got to hear about ways they can take action. But a lot of these events went from very fun social things to like the ice cream social, the lighting up monuments like the Rocket and Roanoke, but just a nice way to really touch a lot of people, show how important the program is. And then, of course, a lot of the focus was on members of Congress and making sure that they're aware of, the 90th anniversary, how important it is to people, the issues facing the program going in the future. And we're happy to say that we had over 37 members of Congress attend different events across the states to sort of get a firsthand, view of what's going on. A lot of them spoke out, obviously, in their support of Social Security and what they're trying to do to get done to make sure we don't run into sort of any solvency issue in the next 10 years or so. But a lot of great things. We had over 700 people across AARP and members, volunteers, new members, all get involved and active on this. And as you saw with Jamie's presentation, we've got the great QR code, we've got the You've Earned It website, just as ways for you to go and get involved. And that's so important. While it's nice to celebrate 90 years, one of the things I've been saying when I was out at an event in one of my states is we want to make sure we get to another 90 years with Social Security, right? So it's so important that we take action now and continue to do so. So we really want to make sure as we start switching over into election season, which of course in Virginia, we've got your gubernatorial race, we've got state house races, a lot of important races. We also know next year is going to be a big race in Congress. And we want to make sure that we're getting out there, we're letting all the candidates know that we got to make sure that the right sort of approaches are taken on Social Security to make sure that it's there for current generations and future generations alike, that the program is solvent and stable going into the future. So if you see here, if you're in Virginia and curious about all the different things about when, where, and how to vote for the upcoming elections, we've got the great voter guide information there. And we also have the Virginia Public Access Project that gives you some different information there as well, and how to make sure that you're engaged and able to vote. This civic engagement so important as we push forward with programs like this to make sure that they're going into the future. We've got to make sure we're talking to elected officials, we're talking to the candidates. There was a really great question about how we're making sure all the candidates, regardless of party, are hearing about it. And it really comes down to you. It's our members, our activists, and getting out there working with our state offices across the country, getting in front of the candidates, talk about the issue, writing letters to the editor, doing social media posts, all that type of stuff to really make sure it's getting out there. I think we do have history on our side, right? I mean, we've made it to 90 years, but it's important that we don't sort of take that just to granted and not do the actions that we need now to make sure that we've got all this stuff going into the future. So that's just kind of a quick sort of update. We've continued to push forward a lot of stuff this year around the 90th, continue to engage members of Congress on the issue, and also make sure the Social Security Administration is doing the right type of stuff to make sure people can access all their benefits quickly and easily, and not making sure there's not some of the hurdles and the difficulties as we transition to different technological approaches when it comes to the program. But with that, I'm going to turn it back to Catherine, but happy to take any questions we might have. Thanks, Catherine.
Hey, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, participants, for participating today. Unless they have some questions, I don't see any there. No. We just hope you feel encouraged and have a better understanding of the connection between civic engagement and Social Security. Now, please, everyone, complete our survey to let AARP know how much you enjoyed our program. The survey link is there. I see that. Come back and join us for Social Security and Medicare. What you need to know on Tuesday, October the 7th at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, the registration link has been placed in the chat. If anyone is interested in rewatching this program, please check out our AARP Virginia YouTube page. Again, a big thank you to our guests, Jamie, Scott, Musser, AARP staff, and you. Again, I'm Katherine Jackson, your AARP volunteer host. Thank you for joining us today. This concludes our program. You may now leave the Zoom meeting. Have a great evening.